Welcome to Unearthly. Yale University students were shocked when Danny Sheehan told them this.
There are at least 5 non-human species that are highly intelligent and highly technologically developed that have in fact been coming to our planet. These different species have bases here on our planet, high up in the remote mountain regions where they're away from all of the people's observations, and very remarkably, under the seafloors on our planet. There is one of these bases just down off Baja.
This is a small part of the speech by the New Paradigm group at Yale recently. But did you know that an ancient Indian epic speaks of a race of highly advanced beings that live under the oceans? What are the stunning parallels between UAPs and the crafts in these epics? And are UAPs linked to oceans, as a Russian Navy officer claimed? Are they really bases in the sea? All this and more coming up, and watch till the end because it will blow your mind. The very first UAP videos released by the Pentagon show the craft hovering over the sea. In fact, as per this Wired magazine article in 2016, a Russian Navy officer claimed that half of all UFOs are linked to the oceans, with 15% arising from lakes. Could this be true? But first, how do you even tell a UFO apart from a normal aircraft? Did you know that a secret US government project called ATEP shows how to do this? Now defunct, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or ATEP, was a covered project to find out whether UFOs pose a threat and shows how to identify them based on 5 traits. If you know these, skip ahead to the next section. The 5 traits of UFOs. First, transmedium travel. UAPs can move easily between different media such as air and water. Second, sudden instantaneous acceleration. They can reach velocities of thousands of miles per hour in just seconds. Third, UFOs appear hazy. 4. Hypersonic velocities without signature. They can move at above Mach 5 speeds with no sonic booms, etc. 5. Positive lift. They can hover and move in any direction easily without a visible means of lift. In fact, right now, the US government is asking for UFO videos that show at least 2 of the 5 traits. It's quite a wild turn from debunking all UFO sightings. You might have seen UFOs or videos of them, but here's an account of one such sighting, and keep watching because there's something a bit different about this. The aircraft was full of mystery. Sometimes it was visible and sometimes not visible. And it was so fast that one was puzzled by its whereabouts. It was on the ground, then in the sky, then the top of a hill, and next plunged into the water. Like a whirling firebrand, it wasn't steady even for a moment. It sounds like a UFO zipping about, right? Except that this account is 2000 years old from the Indian epic Mahabharata. And here's the twist. The craft is attacking a city. It's bombarding Krishna's city of Dwaraka. To grasp this, you need the full text from the epic. Salva's aircraft was mysterious. It was so extraordinary that sometimes many aircraft would appear to be in the sky and sometimes seemingly none. Sometimes the plane was visible and sometimes not visible, and the Yadu soldiers were puzzled by the plane's whereabouts. Sometimes they would see the plane on the ground, sometimes flying in the sky, sometimes resting atop a hill, and next plunging in the water. The wonderful plane flew in the sky like a whirling firebrand. It wasn't still even for a moment. Now here's the most mind-blowing part. The craft seems to have at least 2 of these traits. It's definitely transmedium, since it plunges into the water and flies in the air. It seems to have sudden instant acceleration from the way it zooms around in the sky. There's just one problem though. What about the other 3 traits? There's no way to know as the text doesn't mention it, but just wait till you hear the next part. See how it says it's sometimes visible and sometimes not? Just compare it with this video for UFO, which is believed to be actual footage taken in 2018.
3 teardrop-shaped glowing objects appear to hover in a deliberate, coordinated motion. It stands transfixed by the mysterious lights. The UFOs suddenly disappear and then reappear.
See how it vanishes and comes back? So this sounds like what the ancient epic is describing. And if that's not enough, see the part where it says that sometimes many airplanes would appear and sometimes seemingly none. Believe it or not, but some UFO sightings are exactly like this, where multiple UFOs seem to merge into one. Did you hear about the time thousands of people in Belgium reported seeing UFOs? In 1989, a very large, low-flying triangle-shaped object was seen floating in dozens of towns and cities throughout Belgium. The sightings went on for more than 6 months, and far from being hushed up, they were widely publicized in the country. 2 policemen in a small Belgian town were driving late at night when they noticed a mysterious object floating low in the sky and followed it. It stopped just above a church. This is not footage, but a recreation of what happened next.
The craft seemed to transform into a single beam of light. Then it disappeared.
Taken in this context, it sounds eerily similar to what's been described in the epic. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And there's more. The craft is described as a whirling firebrand, meaning it was glowing. And did you know that is exactly how some people describe the UFOs they've seen? Here's a picture of one such glowing UFO, an illustration. So we have an ancient Vimana that seems to have 2 of the 5 traits, and is shiny and vanishes at will, and can appear to be single or multiple. Add to this something terrifying. It uses deadly force. The result, Dwarka is left in shambles, and so it was rebuilt again, only to be swallowed by the sea in a huge flood, as per the text. You must be wondering, should we even take this seriously? After all, it's just a myth, right? Did you know that there are actual historical sources that mention the city? A copper plate dated as far back as 574 BC mentions the king of Dwarka, and so does a text by Ptolemy of Greece. As you may know, Ptolemy was a highly influential mathematician, astronomer, astrologer, and geographer. His work includes Cosmographia, which is an atlas and a guide to map making, and it's here that Dwarka is mentioned. The second Greek cartographer to mention Dwarka is not as lucky because his name has been lost to time. His text remains though. It's called the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, which mentions Dwarka as being a port. So we have 3 separate historical records of a city called Dwarka. Still, Dwarka was dismissed as a myth till 1963, when archaeologists discovered the ruins of a city off the coast of Gujarat. The location and layout of this match ancient descriptions of Dwarka, which was said to have been founded by Krishna after leaving Mathura. Dwarka was fortified, and the undersea ruins show a fort around the city. So it's possible that this is the same Dwarka mentioned in many ancient texts of India, including the Puranas. Now that we know that Dwarka most likely existed, is it possible that the aircraft also existed? It's something to think about. And here's the cool part. The craft even has a name. It's called Soba Vimana, and it belongs to King Salva, who attacks Dwarka, Krishna's capital city. Keep watching because we're coming to the crux of the matter. How did King Salva acquire this high-tech aircraft? King Salva was a human king who despised Krishna, and in order to destroy Dwarka, he wanted a powerful flying craft. And this is where it gets really strange. Salva didn't seek out the smartest craftsman in his kingdom to make the plane. Instead, he approached a race of non-human beings with vastly superior technology. Any guesses for where they lived? Yup, right under the oceans. The race of beings he sought out were the Danavas. In ancient cultures, people thought in terms of gods and demons. So what were these beings? With their amazing technology, were they gods? Well, at least according to Indian epics, Danavas were classified as demons. Still, a business deal is a business deal as far as Salva was concerned. And so Salva got his spanking new craft, and the Danavas got lots of riches for making it for him. And if the Soba Vimana sounds strange, wait till you hear about another bizarre craft from the same epic. Krishna's friend, the mighty warrior Arjuna, encounters a mysterious craft and later describes it to his brothers as follows. I beheld on my way a great celestial city moving at will, endued with the splendor of the fire or the sun. Beholding that city, wonderful to look at, I asked Matali, my charioteer, what is it that looks so marvelous? Matali tells Arjuna that the exceedingly beautiful city belongs to the Daityas, which are another race of non-human beings. Upon hearing this, Arjuna starts bombarding the city. This is because the Daityas are demons and therefore his father's enemies. At this juncture, it's important to understand who Arjuna's real father is, according to the Mahabharata. King Pandu is fully human, and he is the one who raised Arjuna and his 4 brothers, and that's why they're called Pandavas after King Pandu. Arjuna's biological father, on the other hand, is the immensely powerful Indra, the king of the gods, sort of like Zeus in Greek myths, complete with a thunderbolt. After a lengthy battle, Arjuna annihilates the flying city, and this is what he tells his brothers later. Thus smitten by me, those sons of Diti, taking refuge in that city, again rose up in the air with it, by the help of illusion peculiar to the Danavas. Then I surrounded with various weapons that mighty city that was moving about at will. At one time it plunged into the earth and then rose up in the air again. Now it took a curved direction and then again submerged under the water. What's surprising is that here too, the craft seems equally at home in the oceans and in the air. Also, it says that the craft is endued with the splendor of the fire or the sun, meaning it was fiery to look at. These have stunning parallels with today's UFO sightings. And don't miss that even Ezekiel's wheel sounds similar. Other verses in the epic describe it as Iron City. Notice that many modern sightings describe UAPs as metallic. Neither the shape of the craft nor its means of propulsion is mentioned. What's intriguing is how Arjuna views the craft's antics. He seems to see it as more of an illusion. Also, it's important to note that Arjuna calls them sons of Diti, which means they're Daityas, but later he calls them Danavas. These are actually two separate non-human races as per Indian texts. So here we have a massive craft that sounds more sci-fi than ancient epic, like the mothership from the movie Independence Day. Did you know that there are actually many reports of gigantic UFOs? US Senator Reid spoke at the Next Gov Emerging Tech Summit. Listen to what he said about what happened near the USS Omaha.
Off the coast of San Diego, they saw a big object shaped like a football. It was as big as a football field. It comes and hovers around the cruiser, which is a big, big ship. And then suddenly it just goes into the water and disappears.
Notice that he said that the UFO disappeared into the sea. What's astonishing is that even more enormous crafts have been seen. The Phoenix Lights were said to be a single colossal craft. One of the largest UFOs ever spotted has been described as 4 times the size of a football stadium. This mind-blowing incident took place on the night of December 11, 1996 in the remote Yukon province of Canada. Over 30 witnesses across several towns in the area encountered the biggest UFO ever reported. Among the witnesses was a couple driving with their baby on a long, lonely stretch of road by Lake Fox when they saw the immense craft. It was directly over the lake. Does this ring a bell? Do you remember what the Russian officer said? While half of all UFOs are linked to the seas, 15% are linked to lakes. If you're liking this video so far, please subscribe and stay tuned because there's some crucial cases just coming up that will give context. Remote lakes seem to be favorite hangouts for UFOs. In fact, the icier and more isolated the lake, the more the affinity for them by the UFOs. For example, UFOs have been seen taking off from Lake Titicaca in Peru. But the most shocking encounter took place in Lake Baikal in Siberia, Russia. And this is not a made-up story, it's an actual case from Russia's UFO files, which were made public in the year 2009. In fact, the Russian declassified files cover a number of unsettling cases, including one involving a Russian nuclear submarine in the South Pacific Ocean. The crew on board noticed 6 mysterious objects on the sonar. The 6 objects were moving in formation at frightfully fast knots. A knot is a unit of speed equal to 1 nautical mile per hour, and the objects were zooming at 230 knots per hour. This was at a time when the fastest man-made submarine on Earth could only travel 44 knots. The objects were hurtling towards the submarine at speeds that were terrifying to the crew. With just seconds to spare, the sub began rushing to the surface to prevent collision. But then, something completely unexpected happened. Just as the submarine surfaced, the crew noticed the 6 disc-shaped UAPs reach the surface and shoot off into the air at insane speeds. But the most shocking case from these files is the one that took place at Lake Baikal in Siberia. Lake Baikal is so massive that it's bigger than all of America's Great Lakes put together, and the local shamans actually call it a sea. Lake Baikal is the world's deepest, oldest and largest lake with the purest water that you can ever drink. Just compare it with the Great Lakes of America and see how deep it is. Sometime in 1982, 7 Russian Navy divers entered the lake for a research project. Considering that it was a vast ice sheet when they visited, the divers actually had to burrow a hole in the ice to get into the freezing waters of the lake, and they soon began collecting plant specimens for research. Suddenly, one of the men noticed that they had company. Observing them were the strangest beings the men had ever seen. Humanoids that were like giants. Each one stood over 9 feet tall, with silver skin suits and a strange helmet-like feature over their head and faces. They seemed completely at home in the freezing waters of the lake. A few of the men decided, or maybe they were ordered by their commanders, that the best course of action now was to catch one of these beings. What could go wrong? Keep watching to find out. And so, with alien abduction in mind and a large fishing net in hand, the men began inching forward. You can't make this stuff up. They actually took a net along to catch an ET. What happened next was like a bolt from the blue. A force that sent all 7 men hurtling to the surface within moments. Now, considering that they were 50 meters under the lake, this sudden ascent had deadly consequences as the human body just cannot handle it. This fast ascent results in something horrible known as the bends, an extremely painful condition that can be fatal. Sadly, 3 of the 7 men who entered the lake died due to this, and the rest were left in critical condition as per the files. The beings in this case did not provoke the humans or even show the slightest sign of aggression, and only reacted when they were about to be kidnapped. So Lake Baikal and other icy lakes such as Manasarovar and Mount Kailash are abuzz with UFOs. Please watch a previous video on this. Oceans cover 75% of the world's surface and are largely unexplored. You may not believe this, but we know more about space than we do about what lies in our deep oceans. And so, oceans and remote lakes are the perfect hiding spots for any extraterrestrial bases on Earth. There may be nothing to it, but the parallels between the craft and the epic and UFOs are definitely intriguing. If you found this video informative, please subscribe, share and like. Thanks for watching.